All right, so we should be live in Facebook, and I'm going to let people into the webinar. And so if you are on Facebook and y'all are watching, we're back Sunday, March 19th,
March 19th already.
2023. This is actually 3 official years.
Wow.
3 official years that we've been doing this webinar. And yeah, in the middle of the pandemic and in the middle of craziness and hatred and murder and white supremacy actions, it's awful to think that we even have to do all of this, but we are here and happy to be here with beautiful people, beautiful humans. Welcome to everybody who is coming into the, we've got several people now attending as guests. Welcome, welcome. Please feel free to put in the chat where you are Zooming in from and what brought you here. And just really happy. We see some familiar names, actually, some folks from our book club and some others. We never say the names of the people that are in the attendees unless you give us permission in the chat. If you have a question or something that you offer love to our panelists in the chat, and you're okay with us saying thank you to so-and-so, your name, then we will. Otherwise we won't say your name. And welcome everyone. We are going to get started. And I need to do closed captioning. Thank you so much.
Facebook,
captions, show captions for English, everyone. Okay, so if you need closed captions, but I don't need closed captions. But well, okay, that's the way it goes. It's blocking our panelist face. So hold on. Captions should be available for folks. Let me know if you are able to use captions in the chat. If you're needing them and you're not seeing the access. Okay. All right. So we're just gonna get started, and I want to just welcome everyone into the space. First, we start off by acknowledging the land of the indigenous people, that all land is indigenous land. We also want to share that all races, genders, cultures, abilities, and sexual orientations are valued, heard, accepted, and welcome here. We also want to be very clear that this is not a forum or platform for argument. This is a forum for BIPOC folks to share their experiences, their strength, their hope around systemic racism, or whatever topic is on their heart and mind that brings them resolve or peace or strength. And it is their experiences that they share. And so we're not inviting anyone to disagree with their experiences. And if that's why you're here, you can leave, because that's not going to be something we welcome. And we really ask that everyone who's here support this space to be a place where our panelists can feel safe and brave to land softly with whatever they are experiencing and choosing to share with us. And again, it is their choice. You all may have questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat. They have the choice to answer or not answer. So please don't take offense. We give them the liberty and the microphone to do with that they wish, which means freedom of choice around answering or not answering your questions, and our questions, to be frank. We are not on a pedestal. We are not seeking power here. We are just trying to envelop our friends and our community with love and gratitude for their experiences. You want to share the purpose of the webinar?
So Misha created the webinar and asked me to join her to engage in the honest and authentic conversations about the longtime injustices of racism in America. During the webinar, we discussed systemic racism in an effort to dismantle white supremacy. And we do use the term white supremacy, but we have had people that have joined either as panelists and or participants that have really said for them that term doesn't work. We should be saying white crimes, white violence, white hatred, because supremacy still has the connotation or means something greater than. So we kind of use all those terms and let people choose what they're going to use, but to recognize that language means things to different people, and we want to be aware of that. And our intention with these webinars is to participate in sustainable action and highlight the voices of BIPOC community members, giving them a safe space to be heard about their experiences, challenges, and hopes without the need, I'm going to say it again, without the need to educate white people and to provide, and for us to provide resources to increase everyone's ability to self-educate towards being a more learned ally. And then just briefly, I'm going to be real brief tonight. My name again is Jody Lewis. I am an attorney for a nonprofit organization providing appellate representation for survivors of domestic violence and gender-based violence. I've worked with survivors of violence for pretty much most or all of my legal career in trial court and now doing appellate work. I'm here for a number of reasons, but I'm going to keep it short tonight and just do that for my intro because I do want to get us to our guest.
Thank you. And I'm Misha Safran. I'm a professionally credentialed life coach, trainer, leadership development, training and facilitation. And I was an educator for 30 years teaching French and Spanish, and now do what I just said I do. I don't have to repeat it. But I also do a lot of work with regards to centering empathy and emotional well-being in the workplace. My primary focus is building and changing, but it is medical institutions, law enforcement institutions, and educational systems. And so I'm hoping to encourage inclusion and belonging to then support diversity, equity, and access. And I'm delighted to introduce to you our guest. So I'm going to share my slides, and then we're handing over the microphone because that's what we do here. So we have Kathy Rogers and Laura Knight here tonight with us. And just so everybody knows, the webinar is an hour from 5:30 p.m. Pacific to 6:30 p.m. Eastern, at which time we shut down the recording and the live stream, but welcome those who are in attendance to a 15-minute conversation with us and the panelists. So those of you who are here in the webinar, you will get to stay on and actually come on camera and be with voice to join us. And so
those on Facebook, you won't,
too
but
bad.
next time register and come, and you can join in that after conversation with us.
Yeah, and we don't take advantage or take for granted the time of our panelists. They have different options for compensation and support. So we want to make sure that's very clear as well. So Miss Kathy Rogers has been an educator for the past 25 years. She retired as a child study team school social worker in a large urban school district located in Paterson, New Jersey. Ms. Rogers is a member of New Jersey Education Association, New Jersey Black Educators, and Dress for Success. Ms. Rogers is also certified as a school supervisor, school social worker, and substance abuse coordinator. Ms. Rogers has a master's degree in educational leadership and counseling and identifies as African American, and chose to participate in this webinar as part of her life experience, to share part of her life experience. So thank you for that, Ms. Rogers. So looking forward to hearing more from you. Laura Knight is a mystic and holistic social equity expert, presenter, and facilitator serving over 30 years. As premier of Mistress Noir, she bears witness as you connect the spiritual dots embedded in your daily life. As principal of Holisquity, I should have asked how to say that. Is it Holisquity? Is that right, Laura? Okay. She walks communities, organizations, and private clients through the holistic shift to being equitable by engaging the mainstream narratives within society. She then supports the establishment of effective, sustainable practices that honestly reflect their life organizational culture. Laura is an international presenter, facilitator, and has presented at the Parliament of World Regions, the Spiritual Expo, New England's Women Herbal Conference, the Self-Love Summit, and the Equity to Liberation Conference. Laura identifies as Black, and her decision to participate in this webinar was to be of service. So without further ado, we'll hand it over to Kathy, who will speak for a little while, hand it over to Laura. Laura will hand it back to Kathy, back to Laura, and then we'll do a closing. Welcome, both of you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for being here. Excited to have
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll start by saying I want to thank both of you, Misha and Jody, for extending the invitation to me, on this hot button topic. It's a very hot button topic, and I appreciate the extended invitation. And I just want to be frank, it's a little risky, just the subject in and of itself, but to me, it's even more riskier for you guys, especially you, Jody, being a white woman, because I always try to put myself in the other person's shoes. And to be frank, I'm not so sure if I was a white woman or a white man for that matter, if I would be cheerleading for another race. I just don't think I would, because I see it this way. With most white people, they know racism exists, but most of them are on a quiet front. Like they see it, but they put no voice to it, because why would they? No, they're not really trying to equal the playing field. And I don't know if I was white, if I would try to equal the playing field. If I'm on a winning team, so to speak, or if, say, for example, if it was a race and my team always got 30 points just right at the start that the other team didn't get. So most of the time we know we're going to win. So why would I want to stop winning? You know what I mean, Jody? That's how I see it. If I was white, I don't know if I would be such a staunch advocate to quote unquote change things. And that's the way I think that most white people think. They know it's wrong, but they kind of sit on the sideline and see it and don't see it. So I just want to say thank you for both of you guys for being such a staunch, advocate for this, because not many people would, not many white people particularly would do this. So yeah, so I want to just start with that. And then I just want to describe a little bit what systemic racism is. I did look it up, and it is described as systemic racism, also known as institutional racism, is defined as policies and practices that exist throughout a whole society that result in and support of continued unfair advantage or harmful treatment based on race. That is the definition, and it's very appropriate because that's what we see. That's kind of sort of what I live in certain circumstances. And I will just give you a couple of personal experiences that I've experienced. And the first one would be, it's pertaining to my son. I have a 27, well, now he's 27. But when he was in the 7th grade, that's when Obama was running for president. That was his first campaign as running for president. And where we live, where my family is the minority. We're considered minorities anyway, but in this particular school system, there weren't many Blacks. There just wasn't. So he was in his social studies class. He was the only Black in that class, in that particular class. And his teacher said, she stood up, she said, I know Obama is running, but I really don't particularly like him. She said this to the class, and then everybody turned around and looked at my son. He's the only Black in the class. And so my son, he was in the 7th grade, that's middle school. And he's not a young boy of many words. He's very well mannered. I'm not just saying that because he's mine, but he doesn't, he doesn't look for trouble. But he did come home that day. We were sitting having dinner, and he just said to me, "Ma, my teacher, whatever her name was, she was talking bad about Obama." And then the whole class turned around and looked at me. I got infuriated. And you know, I missed work the next day to go to the school because that's how, you know, I have a voice, I had to use it. But anyway, when Obama won, you know, they tallied up the score. I remember it was around midnight. My son jumped up out of his bed, ran into my room, and gave me the biggest hug, like he had won the lottery. That's how proud he was because it came to fruition, you know? The whole thing turned around. So that was one experience. Another experience was I was the guidance counselor. So every Monday we would have an update on what happened for the weekend for my group. And there was only one white boy in the group because where I live, it was predominantly white, but where I work, it was predominantly Black. So but it was one white boy in this group, and they came in and we're talking where they went, what they did for the weekend. And they say to me, well, Miss Rogers, we were out, we were walking, and the cops stopped us. I said, stop you? He said, yeah. Or they said, yeah. I said, stopped you for what? He said, we were just walking, we were on our way to the movies or somewhere, and they just, you know, stopped us. But they let John or George or whatever his name was, they let him go. They made all the other Black guys handcuffed and get on the ground. And for what? Just frisking them just because they could. But they let him go. And he was in the group, so he said, yeah, Ms. Rogers, they let me go. So I you know, that was just, it's just unbelievable how this systemic racism is woven into every part of the fabric. You know, it's woven into every part of the fabric, wherever you go, whether you're in school, whether you're at home, walking down the street, in the workforce, it's woven, but it's particularly, what is the word? It's particularly glaring. It's particularly glaring in criminal justice. It's glaring there more so than any other situation. And it's just like, we have so many African-American men, some women also, that encounters the criminal justice system in very harsh and abusive ways. You know, we go back to that word abuse as I described it in what systemic racism is. It's abuse at its highest level. And, you know, just last week they had on TV where the guy in Florida, he was sentenced to 400 years, 400 years for armed robbery. Not didn't kill anyone, just armed robbery. And he served 34 years. And this was something that, you know, a crime he didn't even commit. And finally, after 34 years, they let him go. You know, like when they gave him 400 years, they thought it was a airtight case. Like, there's no way we're gonna let this man go. We're giving him 400 years. They thought it was airtight, but it wasn't. But he did serve 34 years. That's abuse. That's institutional racism at its finest. And this type of abuse primarily happens to Black and Black men in particular. It's just so humiliating and so hurtful. I mean, we take care of animals better than we take care of some Black people. You know, if you were to be abusive to a dog or a cat or whatever, just walking down the street, you throw a rock at them, you know, you have the animal rights, the PETA people that's coming out. They're coming out. But you you can go out here and just be as harmful as you want to the Black man, and there's no accountability or very little accountability. I mean, they kind of sort of made Derek Chauvin accountable with George Floyd, because that went viral. It was worldwide. It wasn't just United States wide. It was worldwide. So they kind of had to do something to, you know, just for the sake of doing something, because it went viral. But we have so many cases, you know, with the Trayvon Martin, the Tamir Rice. Tamir was only 12 years old, gunned down. Eric Garner in New York selling loose cigarettes, you know, Philando Castillo. I mean, if you're a Black man, you every day when you walk out, you know, and I tell my son, I had to have quote unquote the talk, you know, whites in general do not have to have the talk. I see when they arrest a white guy, like they did with the one in Buffalo, when he went down there and gunned down all those Black people, they didn't kill him. They handled him with kid gloves. They arrested him. That's what they did. They didn't gun him down. And he committed a crime. These people here, they were, you know, Tamir, 12 years old. You know, Trayvon Martin, he had a bag of Skittles. So I mean, like I don't think, and maybe this will be the last thing I'll say, and I'll give it over to Laura. I just think that we can't, as Black people, we cannot give up. It's very traumatic for us to live like this. And that's why we have more high blood pressure, any kind of disease or whatever that has to do with stress. We have more of it because of the color of our skin. Basically, it's just because of the color of our skin. And you know, this white, Black, like I said, it's all construct. There's no such thing as a white race. That's a made up construct. But we use it, and we use it well, because it creates a class system. You know, it creates a class system. The whiter you are, you know, the more privileged you are, or you can be. And so it's just it has no end. It has no end. I don't think in this lifetime there is no end to this, because it's created. And those that benefit from it, like I said in the beginning, they're not going to be in such a rush to even the playing fields. I'm not saying give anybody just a handout, but just to kind of sort of even the playing field. I don't think it's going to happen, but that doesn't mean we give up the fight, and I won't. Okay.
Kathy, I just want to say thank you. And, you know, even in the case of the criminal system, Derek Chauvin was not let go right away. He was not taken care of right away. But when the 5 Black officers killed Tyrese, they were suspended immediately.
Right.
So even in the criminal justice, you know, even in the law enforcement, the white officer, they waited and waited and waited, but the Black officers, they're like, see, we got to take care of these guys.
Right.
All wrong.
Well, I mean, no justice. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Knight. And, first, I want to say thank you to Misha and Jody for creating the space, for sustaining this space for 36 months. Yeah, I want to acknowledge that. And then as I was listening to Kathy, I had, well, first the ask of the evening. I work in this space, and then I was wondering, well, what can I do? Because talking to Misha and Jody beforehand and hearing, well, you can, if there was something you want to say, like what this is a moment for you to say whatever you want to say. And for me, serving in this space. It took a bit for it to sink in. I could say whatever I want. Well, respectfully. And so
Or not, up to you.
and so so I was all over the place, but this is where I've landed. So first thing is I always, so this is my speak. Racism is bound, is yoked to whiteness, and whiteness is different than white supremacy. So please stick with me. Hopefully I can get to some definitions, but I don't know. And so for me, and racism is a tool. All the isms are a tool, right? To perpetuate whiteness, to sustain the construct that Kathy had referred to earlier or moments ago. And so for me, if I could say anything, yes, these are rhetorical, but I still want to say it, I would like to talk about racism, but the other side. So let's talk about the whiteness side of racism. And so again, rhetorical, you don't have to answer. But first, let me explain, how I see how, for me, racism and whiteness are connected. If we imagine a car crash, right? And the isms, so I'm just going to talk about race going forward, but it applies to all of them. Racism is like the ER, right? And that's where the casualties are, and we see the results and the effects of what happened on the highway. And whiteness is the highway, right? And so for me, I become frustrated sometimes because the hyper focus of the ER. And yes, there's issues with the procedures. Yes, there's awful stories, all of that, 100%. But for me, as with all of my lived experiences, I am looked at with everything in me. I am so ready to get on the highway, and let's look at the highway, and let's look at the driver, and let's look at the vehicle that's propelling, that's the mechanism. And yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to say. This is just me saying what I want to say. And I know I'm saying that over and over, but I kind of have to remind myself, because part of my conditioning is, well, make it comfortable, make it make sense in a way that white people did. I'm not doing that today. So that that for me consistently comes up. For example, and I hope Kathy doesn't mind if I use a couple of her examples.
No.
But even actually, I won't. There's one thing that stuck out to me this week with the situation in California with the run on the bank, and then what happened after. And then there was an editorial where a white man is writing and assessing the failures of the bank. And then out of nowhere, offers, well, maybe their focus on DEI is also the reason, because they were so distracted by this is in print, the one Black, the one LGBTQ person, the 6 women, and the 2 veterans, that distracted these brilliant minds so much that they couldn't see, these brilliant financial minds, that they couldn't see some basic financial situations coming to fruition. And excuse me. And so a lot of the focus of the conversation is on how bad it is to point out the non-white male people. But what I focus on is the comfort that this person felt in writing that, in submitting it, and the confidence to do that. And all of the people that stood around, oftentimes we think about the crash, right? The driver does one thing, but then everyone else on the highway just standing there, right? It's the complicit that people talk about, or that is discussed often. To allow that to be posted, and it's not so much that it's posted, because we can post anything nowadays, but that the reputation of the newspaper, that they were willing to align themselves with it. and all the gymnastics of whiteness to justify allowing it to stand, to not say anything against it, to defend perpetuating something that, one, diminishes the white men, really, right? Because if you are so inept that something as simple as other people who don't look like you can distract you from what you have professionally, all your professional experience and credentials, what does that say about you, right? So that's one thing about, that's the framework and how I experience racism. So so I'm saying that. And then the other piece, there was in the introduction, I was so excited to hear speak about language, because I'm passionate about language. And when I am in service, I have a language within Holisquity and so I'm going to share a few, because as a Black person who can say whatever she wants in the next few minutes, these annoy me. So, well, actually, I'm just going to use the number one that annoys me, and that is ally, because my goodness, it never made sense. And it just doesn't make sense, because if my mother came up to your mother, I'll just stick with mothers, and punched her in the face, then asked your mother for help for her to not punch her in the face again. And then I came behind her saying, well, just help me understand how I can prevent myself from punching you in the face. It wouldn't make any sense. Yet there's been a large chunk of energy focused on, well, tell me how I cannot dehumanize you. Please tell me how I cannot dehumanize you. It goes right through me. And so I'm all about solutions. Well, most of the time. And so what I offer is the participant, right? It doesn't have a catchphrase. However, it is accurate, because whenever we are present in whatever, we're participating. You're either perpetuating the situation or you're disrupting the situation, period. Now, I know it's not fancy, it's not a badge, and I know whiteness conditions white people to look for labels, right? To leverage it for position and power. But I'd like to offer it because I can, it's my time. And so, I just offer to really, whenever you're present, you're a participant. No labels necessary. And I don't know how much time I have left because I forgot to press my timer, but I'm going to touch on my third piece. And this is not a label. This is not language. This is, again, a phraseology or maybe a perspective. But the whole piece of pretending not to know, again, right through me. It's like spicy food, from the rooted to the tuta, it just sets me on fire. And, it's like, if it was true, and let me, again, I said this applies to all isms, et cetera, et cetera. So as a cis woman, it applies to me. And I 100% own so I just want to say that this regularly applies to me. But pretending that I don't know, and Kathy had mentioned it earlier, that I don't know about, as a cis woman, I don't know about the aggression and how trans people are targeted. If that were true, then I would be stumbling into situations where I would be disrupting something because it wouldn't make sense, right? And so I'm sorry, I was going to say something that probably wasn't helpful, so I'm reaching for another word. The whole performance, that's a good word. The whole performance of learning about racism, right? For me, is like saying, well, I don't know any trees. I've never seen a tree, right? In the middle of a forest, yet never bumping into a tree. You're like, no, I didn't know trees exist. How, please tell me more about a tree. Yet you've never ever tripped over a root. You've never ever hit a tree, Don't get freaked out by leaves falling in the fall, right? Excuse me, you're navigating the construct, or more accurately aligning with the construct, and excuse me, thus proving you understand it, and you understand it on a particular level. And then referring back to the that article, bringing us in the room when we never ever, when we're not physically there, right? In that white man's article, regulations were the issue, right? And the actual staff, because the diversity piece was about the board, the actual people running the company were all white. However, bringing Black people in the room, bringing LGBTQIA in the room, bringing, I don't know when veterans became a marginalized group, but okay, bringing women into the room when we weren't even, when I say the room, I meant the article, out of nowhere, because it gives it is the tool that helps perpetuate whatever it is that you're trying to sustain. And I'm going to pause here for time to make sure I still have time to keep talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. No.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's, I think we're ready to go back to Kathy. Just want to say, this is so the ally, we've been having this discussion for over a year now, even though we've been doing this for 3 years, because we took a class and trying to figure out, like, even we have a document that we send folks how to be more learned allies, but yet we've been fighting with this word ally and allyship. And so I appreciate you bringing that back to the conversation for us, because it's definitely, even in the class we were taking recently with Colette Can, around how to facilitate racially just spaces. We talked about allyship versus co-conspirator versus kinship, and participant makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And just really finding ways to, really acknowledge its participation, it should be participation.
If you're present, you're participating, right? Because even if you're silent, you're still participating. You're lending your energy, and whoever is aggressing, the perpetrator, is using that for support.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you're
Mhm.
participating. If you are present, you're participating.
Right.
And we are responsible for our presence,
Yes.
right? With the CE. And so when we are present, we are responsible for our presence and what we are doing. And then accountability is a whole other thing. But yeah, sorry, I'm over my, I think I'm sorry. I'll stop.
No need to apologize. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All voice, everything. Wonderful to hear you.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll get
Yeah.
Kathy come back in.
Yeah, so I will just piggyback off what Laura was saying, or I'll add to it. We are responsible for our presence. And when you say nothing, it's like you're condoning whatever situation it is, because silence is a mechanism that we use when we say nothing. So we're not saying yes, we're not saying no, we're just not saying nothing. But you're condoning whatever the situation is by saying nothing, and it's and that is a big problem, especially in the workplace, and I know my qualifications. I know, I'm certified in this and certified in that, but many times I was looked over, passed up, because I had a voice, and I never let anyone silence it. I did not. I spoke up when I needed to speak up, and a lot of people, they don't like that. They want you to go along to get along, go along to get along, and you and I didn't do that. So yeah, you when you show up in whatever kind of space, whether it's work, home, or wherever, your presence is saying something in and of itself, and I'm just going to move along a little bit here. I want to talk a little bit about education, because I come from a educational background. And so I just want to say, Ron DeSantis has become the new poster child for the right wing. He has become the new poster child for the right wing. He's trying to take African American studies, African American AP studies out of the curriculum.
Yep.
Why African American? Why that, why that angle? Because people, his donors, his supporters are all feeding that. They don't have enough courage to stand up and say that that's what they want. So they feed his campaign, and he becomes, the poster child to carry it out, the poster child or the puppet. It's a very expensive puppet, but yeah, that's what he's doing. And why? I mean, just why? Just because it creates controversy, just because it's a way to keep your finger on the pulse, keep African Americans under your thumb, so to speak. Yeah, it's just a way to do that, to take that particular out of the curriculum. And it's just mind blowing to me. We have to work twice as hard, jump twice as high, outperform in whatever we do. With Tanji Brown that just got nominated to the Supreme Court. Her credentials were so airtight, but they tried on every angle, when she had to go, to get sworn in, and they just tried so hard to deny her that position. But she came airtight, she had all her credentials, she had so much experience. So it was very hard for them to deny her. And I believe Joe Biden was going to give it to her anyway. But it's just unbelievable the amount of stress we have to go through sometimes. And like I said in the beginning, I don't think that is going to change. I mean, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer. I don't want to sound like, oh, you're just doubting it. No, this is reality. This is what it is. This is how my eyes see it. I don't see where it's going to ever be an equal playing field, because if they could give a Black man that did not commit an armed robbery 400 years, like what are you thinking? That I mean, just why would your heart and your soul allow you to do that? Like, what are you thinking? Like, so if they're still doing that in this current day and age, how long will it be before we can catch up? How long? Anybody, please, somebody in the chat room, answer that question if you have it, because I would really like to know the answer. When do you think Blacks are going to get an equal playing field? And don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound, like I'm the victim here, because I did pretty well for myself. However, I worked hard. I didn't get a free pass with anything. I earned my keep. But I just know, somebody of equal status would have had more doors open, or didn't have to work as hard as I worked. I mean, it's universal. You're looking at the color of someone's skin. But the ironic thing is, when the weather gets warm, people flock to the beach to get a tan. Like, that makes no sense. You don't want to be Black because there's too much negativity associated with being Black, but you do want the Black skin or the darker skin or the tan skin. What is that? Temporarily, it really looks better. It looks better. So you flock to the beach and you lay out in the sun for hours to get a tan, but you don't want to be Black. It's oxymoron. It really is. Mm-hmm. It's like you want it both ways. You want it both ways. And it's just ridiculous. And one more thing I'll just say, the curriculum varies, right? The school curriculum varies from state to state, but it also varies from town to town within the same state. I'm in New Jersey, and I worked in a large urban district, as you said in the intro. So a girl happened to be a white girl. She came from a suburban district to the urban district where I worked at. I don't know. I think her mother and father got a divorce, and then her mother fell on hard times. So they had to move to Patterson, which is, so she came with her transcript, and she had regular classes in the town called Ridgewood, which is very suburban, upscale kind of neighborhood. She brought the transcript to Patterson. They considered her transcript in Patterson AP classes, as though they were just regular classes in the school district she came from. So I'm saying that to say they watered down the curriculum in the urban district because they think they're not dealing with as intelligent students. So they water it down, they dummy down the curriculum. And this I know for a fact. They dummy the curriculum down because they just do. And so if your curriculum is dummied down or watered down, whichever word you want to use, and then you go to college, or you go to do any type of aptitude test, you're going to score lower because your curriculum in school was already watered down. You weren't taught as much. You weren't taught on that level because people didn't think you could achieve on that level. So they water the curriculum down, and they have more special ed students in the urban district, and they call it the pipeline to prison. Mm-hmm. I know you've heard of that. That's what they call it. They water the curriculum down. They frustrate the kids. The kids get restless. And then, for any little infraction, you're going to jail. This is what they do in the urban districts. This is what they do. And then, but you have in some other suburban districts, you have these mass shootings. In the church in South Carolina, he went into the church, just started shooting, and then they took him to McDonald's. Mm-hmm. Go figure. What, why, how does that? All because, again, one simple thing, the color of your skin. Come on, I pray about it, but I live in real time. This stuff is so embedded, it's so systematic, it's so institutionalized that it's you can move a mountain before you make the playing level equal. But yeah, if anybody in the chat can let me know the answer to that question, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Laura?
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Just want to notice there was a comment in the chat for you, Kathy, that said, you are not sounding like a victim. You are speaking truth to the reality, no matter how harsh it sounds. So there's some affirmation and validation that you didn't sound like a victim to us either. And I also wanted to just really quickly say, you mentioned, that you earned your keep, that you didn't have anything handed to you, but you also had to walk through that with tremendous fear and trauma. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people with whiter skin don't have that same kind of fear and trauma on a daily basis that you have to endure.
Correct.
So it's just, it's something, it is, who knows when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen, right? Yeah. Reparations are needed, and not everybody looks at that seriously.
And neither do I. Yeah. I don't look at it seriously because it's so far-fetched. Don't get me wrong, it should happen. It should, because I know other nationalities have gotten reparations. It should happen, but I wouldn't put too much energy into that, because nobody lives forever. We're all gonna depart this world one day. And so you put energy in things you think are going to change, and I just don't think reparations are one of them. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Me, okay. Thank you, Kathy. And so there's a couple of things that Kathy said that was stuck with me. One thing is people, the systems are people, right? It's humans. So it's not some far off, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking again, but it's people, it is humans. So those are the cogs that are churning things. So it's the clerk, it's the town clerk, it's, excuse me, the secretary. All of these are the system, so the systemic racism is about people. Institutional racism is about people and how they perceive things and the actions they take on what they perceive and what they believe. So I just wanted to, that's been with me. And so the last three things that I wanted to say were there was a tweet. I'm not sophisticated enough to share screen and share it with you, so I'm just going to speak it. But it reads that, and this was from, so there was we all know Twitter, it's going through things, but the tweet was about disability, but again, this applies across isms, and it was, it's about someone trying to heal their way out of they have long COVID, and so it's them, the whole thread was about them healing and eating and doing all these things to get to not be, to separate themselves from disability. And so the tweet reads that, and people are desperate not to be disabled because they see how badly disabled people are treated. It takes a long time to stop fighting your body and start fighting for your rights. So that first part, right? And people are desperate not to be disabled because they see how badly disabled people are treated, right? A la Jane Elliott, right? You see how Black people are treated, so you don't want to be that. And so who is the real target? Is the target Black people, or is the target the white people who keep quiet if they continually watch the dehumanization of different people? Mm-hmm. Just want to put that out there, rhetorical, or you can answer. But I'm gonna say, in my opinion, white people are the target, right? To keep you silent, to keep you hesitating. And that, and it's not just the isms, it's within white culture, right? It's all of it is the conditional approval and conditional acceptance. And the fact that the what is that called? The thing that keeps moving, the whatever they say, guardrail, punchline, or whatever, yardstick, I can't remember, but whatever, yeah, there's a phrase, but keep moving the goalpost. We got there. You got there. Sorry. I'm just free today. And so with that, and within what, again, I'm connecting this to racism, using that racism as a tool, right? The disconnection, because within your own space, right? Everything's moving, everything's changing, as far as acceptance, what's good, the goodness, so you can be of value. Yeah, people are the systems. And so doing the right thing for your job is, if it requires some child to be sent to jail, so be it, right? So again, who is the target of who's the true target of the isms? And then the other piece I wanted to speak to was, now that I've said all this, there's what is the alternative? And one thing a phrase, again, that I find, this goes through me less, but it's the doing the work, right? And again, whoever uses it, bless you, I'm talking about myself. Because existence, when, you know, I have many lived experiences. My lived experience as a Black person, my lived experience as a woman, as someone who with multiple disabilities, as someone who's not heterosexual. And it's not work. I love myself. And yeah, I have no regrets with anything. And yeah, some things I can be frustrated. What becomes laborious, fatiguing, tired is trying to contort myself within the construct, because it's not made for me, obviously. That's tiring. But being myself is not tiring at all. It's joy. It's the, you know, just being, having moments to be is, yeah, anyways. And so I offer that shifting from doing work, right? One, for me, others, the social equity or whatever we call the space, it's not other, it's life, right? To being the change. So if you're existing, then that's it. Wherever you're being, that's where something happens. And this isn't about education. Again, this isn't about learning, because we don't learn to be humane. It's intrinsic, right? And we know people don't learn to be humane because people seek out to defend their own humanity, hence the whiteness and the disassociation I spoke about earlier. So your agency as a human and knowing what is humane for you gives you, your awareness of that gives you agency to say something to disrupt. I am looking at the time and I'm gonna have my last thing. And then the last thing I would offer is that is done by leading with your essence, right? That intrinsic part of us, the humanity, leading with that. And what I offer often is to be who you are and not who you've grown to be, right? And really just tapping into that, and there's layers to that. But those are the things that I wanted to say. I'm looking at the time and I'm gonna wrap up. So again, Misha, Jody, Kathy, this has been great. I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both so much. There's so many gems and pearls of wisdom in things that both of you have said. Even that last bit, I had to write down, trying to contort myself to be in the construct. And I think that is for everyone, right? When we're not being our true selves and trying to contort, and then that, you know, you don't learn to be humane, it's intrinsic. And then, you know, going back to Kathy, really talking about, when you're talking about that pipe to prison pipeline, that perpetual adultification of Black children that has happened in this society, and what that means. And talking also about the courts and Justice Jackson and that whole confirmation and what happened. And if anyone's not watching, there's a lot of horrible decisions and cases before the Supreme Court, and one of them, affirmative action. And I really encourage you to listen to Strict Scrutiny podcast, the one on affirmative action, because it really highlights how the female justices on their bench are really driving really hard questions and making people think they're in the majority as far as the voting. So, but they're voicing the stuff that has to be voiced. I just say that because it ties into like everything both of you are saying, and just really want to, again, appreciate your time, your presence, what you shared. Definitely made me think a lot. I love the rhetorical questions as a white woman, and thinking about everything that you said, Laura and Kathy, everything you said regarding silence and what that means. And even you thanking me in the beginning, I've been silent a lot. I've been in that I guess that forest, seeing the trees but not seeing them, or, you know, that's not quite the analogy you used. And it's incumbent upon me and all of us to be speaking and coming together and being agencies to disrupt what has been happening. So thank you both.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And hopefully, you know, we all learned a little something here. I mean, if we didn't learn anything, at least it can start us to thinking about things a little bit differently, Absolutely. Because I always say, I don't know how I would react if how I would react, live, or cheerlead if I was a white woman. I don't know, being honest. I don't know I would be on the front line saying, yeah, let's get them caught up. I would probably be, like you said, Jody, just silent sometimes. You know it exists, but not in real rush to change anything. It benefits me. Why would I change?
Mhm.
And I just want to land with, I don't teach anybody anything. I'm reminding people
Mhm.
of what they already know. And so I just want to ensure that. And then the last piece, Kathy, I just brought something through me, is that, are you really benefiting? Because if we look, and I'm not going to get into that because of time, but that's the question, is, are you really benefiting at the end of the day? And so the perception of benefit, from, again, I'm not white in this lifetime, but however.
Me either, but on the surface, on the surface you benefit, so it's change is slow. It's slow. I mean, we have come a long way. I don't want to take away from that. We have come a long way as a group of people, African Americans. We have made some gains, but we're by no means are we caught up. It's just not an even playing field. It's just not. And I don't think it will be, but I'll keep trying. And the last thing I want to say is that, so it's like, okay, so you said all this. So what is the takeaway? What should we do? When we leave this, what should we do? Everybody, to me, should know who their state senator and congressman or woman is. You should know, you should have their email or their phone number, and you should use your voice. You put these people in office, right? You put these people in office to serve you. So if you're unsatisfied with anything, you should let it be known, whether they change it or not. But you should let it be known. You have a voice, use it. That's what you can do. And you can also make sure that you vote. If you're not satisfied in your town, don't just wait for, now a woman is running for something, let's everybody vote. Vote on your local level also, because it makes a difference.
Thank you, Kathy. And I just want to, before we're gonna stop the recording here and the stream, but I want to just put this out there to everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube, and also in the all of our attendees. It kind of goes along with what both Laura and Kathy said, which is one of our driving forces of this webinar, and I'm going to change some language here tonight, is to identify how you can be in sustainable presence, sustainable participation, to making it right, to moving forward in building the opportunities so that at some point we can reach a level playing field, or even a better playing field for BIPOC. So I feel like that's the call to action here, is as an individual, those of you who are attending, our guests, and all the other medias that we have, please consider, what is your sustainable presence? What is your sustainable participation? And again,
I just want to insert, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say, nobody's doing anything for BIPOC. You're doing it for yourself, because you're sinking right along with us, respectfully. And I'm saying that with love to you guys, sincere. But I just
absolutely.
I'm done. I know.
You can correct me 5 more times if you want to, or exchange with me 5 more times if you want to. I appreciate that, actually. I appreciate that rephrasing. I mean, we've been rephrasing a lot of things, and of course we can't please everybody. And then we're going to say something that somebody wants to change, and the other person's like, no, change back. And, but at the same time, that really resonates with me, because I have a large community of people that I love and care about. And when they're hurting, I'm hurting. When I'm hurting, they're hurting. And so it is together that we are all doing this. So thank you for bringing that light right now. That's really important. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stop recording. We're going to stop the live stream. And then anybody who's in attendance here on the webinar, you can raise your virtual hand and we can bring you on to be on camera with us. So let me just
further, a
For
little
the
further
next
conversation. for a
11
little bit.
minutes. Let me stop the recording. We'll say goodbye to the people
Phil,
watching.
come on,
Bye,
please.
everybody.
Bye,
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
And stop.